little trick here before when we get started.
Sure thing.
Give me a second here. Perfect. Just did it. All right. No, what happens is, see, Zoom and I got it. Yeah. So what happens is Zoom has this tendency to, like, be him and that Hit and Twitch are like evil brothers, kind of like you and Alex. You pick on each other,
Yeah.
right? You pick on each other and you do evil things to each other just for the sake of being evil. And
Just to make life interesting.
that's right. That's right. I am so choked up that interview with Alex got eaten. So choked up. We talked about you a lot.
Yeah, it's so annoying.
Yeah, no, I lost 3 interviews.
Yeah, I figured as much.
Yeah, no, we did. We actually, this very comic book, we talked about this, right? Because, see, Alex, Alex said this was his greatest victory ever. One of his great victories.
Yeah. I can see, and I know why it's technically his greatest victories, because I'm finally succumbing to one of his ridiculously stupid ideas.
That's right. Yeah, that was the whole thing.
Yes.
Like we spent about 10 minutes talking about this particular idea. And the fact of the matter is, because here's the thing, like me and Alex, we were talking about Alex here a little bit, folks, because this is an interview I wish I still had. It would have already have aired if it had, because it was one of my favorite, legitimately speaking, one of my favorite conversations the whole weekend. I was there. Good dude, right? But me and him have the same sense of humor, which kind of definitely doesn't hurt. But
makes for interesting conversations.
Yeah, no, he's actually a really deep dude. It's just
very smart.
For about 10 minutes, we were talking about this particular comic and how his story was, this was my idea, and you were like, no, never in a million years. And now here you are writing the comic.
Well, to be fair, on my end, this is not exactly the way he wanted the character and the project to go, but it has the essence of. So he is one on a distilled level, but not on a base level.
Yeah. No,
and I will hold to that.
Oh, okay. One second here. I just got to do one. I'm just doing one thing here, just making sure it's working. Okay, perfect. I'm just making sure that anyone that decides to interact with this conversation can. Oh, geez, here it goes. That's what I was worried about right there. Boom, there it is. The mute button. It's a weird friend. Like I said, Twitch and Zoom don't like each other exactly, right? They like each other more now than they used to, but they like, you know. But anyway, no. Well, you like, in all fairness, okay, this is in all fairness to you, you gotta do it your way. If you're gonna do an idea of his, you have to do it your way. You can't do it entirely his way. Although I would have, like, based on what he's told me, I would have loved to have been a fly in that way when to hear that conversation.
Yeah. Well, it's very funny because over the 20 years that we've had Committed Comics going, there's been so many times where he's come up with a concept or an idea or plan, and I've sat there and poo-pooed it or shot it down and pretty much said, like, that's not going to work, or someone's already done it to this level, and this, and then we go back and forth, and that's what a good business relationship is. You go back and forth and you try to find the middle ground and all the nuts and bolts that are going to work. And this was one of those things that I didn't want to write my own comic because I didn't think I had the time or the stamina, for lack of a better term. I mean, I've now learned that writing a comic takes a lot of work, and I mean, I always knew that, but now that I've actually done it and I've written, and I'm planning on this being a 4-issue miniseries, and I've already got 2 issues done, and it's an uphill battle.
I gotta say, like the initial idea in the script form is easy-ish. We're gonna say easy-ish, right?
Yeah.
But the reality of the situation is, like, depending on who your collaborator is, right? Mm-hmm. The story, like, comics are this weird, like I would say, like, I've equated it to a band, because it's actually, I think it's a very apt thing, because there's a lot of voices that indicate, like, make the final product. A good comic, There's a lot of voices involved that make a final product work well. Even if someone's doing it by themselves, which is a very special kind of unicorn in this industry, ladies and gentlemen. It really, really is. But even they have outside people going, okay, how have you thought about this? How have you thought about that? Have you thought about this? Because again, it's just, and then on top of that, sometimes as you tell the story, it doesn't come out quite like you imagined it would.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, and that's one of those things that I've heard a lot of as an editor and as somebody who's done art direction for people. I've heard it from a lot of people that they're like, "Oh yeah, the story started here, but then it told me it wanted to go over here."
Yes.
And I've always heard that, and I always understood it to some degree, and I always respected it. But then when I was writing this story, I had my outline broken down. I had the beats I wanted to hit, and then as I'm writing out the dialogue and as I'm breaking down the panels and that kind of stuff, I'm like, "Oh no, this won't work here. This has to work over here." And that's the story telling me that no, it needs to go in a different direction, and that was not quite a hard lesson to learn, but it was a lesson to learn.
Well, like I said, it also kind of depends on where you're at. How do I put this? Your personal growth
Yeah.
development here. Like I think when you're younger and older and wiser and stuff like that, or younger and more ambitious. We'll just say younger and more ambitious. You're trying to make it more perfect. When you get older / wiser, you realize, it doesn't. I can have a few lumps in the crepe. It's okay.
Well, and I also think as you get older, you understand more of the collaboration elements, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I don't. I've definitely seen it from a lot of seasoned professionals and stuff that they start collaborating and the writer writes out panel by panel, breakdown by breakdown, and then by the time the miniseries is halfway into it, or the story arc they're working on is halfway into it, the writer starts to just get more generalized because they understand that their creative team knows where they are, knows that and can fill in the blanks
Yeah.
a little bit more so. Whereas I think when you're younger and a little bit more ambitious, you're just like, no, no, no. Like you said, the perfect concept. You're like, no, I definitely want to look like this, and I definitely want to look like this, and I definitely want to look like this, and that doesn't always serve the story in the best way.
I, like I said, as I've gotten older / wiser, I'm gonna put a question mark on wiser. You know me, like you kind of know
Yeah,
me. It's like I don't know, wise is the right word to describe me, right?
yeah,
But what I would say is what I've learned is that perfection is the enemy of art.
yes,
It really, really is, and
yeah,
I don't worry about it. Like the podcast taught me this more than anything else. I could have this master plan of what we want to talk about,
mhm.
but you might not give a shit one way or the other about it.
Right. Or you might ask a question that you're hoping or expecting a lengthy response to that has depth to it, that the person goes, yeah, no, we totally did that.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, is there anything more to that? Like, we have 25 more minutes.
Oh
And
no,
then,
I had that happen to me in San Diego. Like the only problem with my interview style is if someone really just wants to cut through all the muck, they just
mhm,
like they right. It doesn't mean. By the way, it doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad interview. It's just it's not
no,
going to be the chatty interview, right? So,
right, right. It's
right.
more bullet points,
Yeah,
you know.
and that's totally fine too. Like it's not generally what I do, but I do respect people. That's their approach, right, to things,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
right?
definitely like a more late night television style, right? Because they know their time frame they need to fit. So
Yeah,
they know they need to hit a
yeah,
certain amount of beats.
exactly. I mean, and I've had some cool, like I said, I had a lot of time. Like I had a lot of fun in San Diego. Like I said, I had a lot of fun when I was there, and it was nice to actually
Yeah.
meet you in person.
Yeah, no, it was awesome.
Yeah, I wish Bill was there. That was the only thing. It was like Bill that would have been perfect, but I
Yeah,
understood.
he had to take a year off. I mean, it's kind of funny actually because he doesn't I believe as of right now he doesn't have an artist alley spot. So he's just going to be dropping in and doing some sign. He's going to be there this year and he's going to be doing some signings and guest spots. Um but he's not going to have his own space. Like he's going to use the Committee Comics booth kind of as his home base.
I'm going to be applying for my professional badge like now-ish, so I can actually get
Mm,
in next year. I had too much fun. I don't want to
yeah.
not. Sorry. Also, I want to see how many more ways I can sneak up on your boss.
Yeah, it was. I finally got the confirmation. Actually, where is it? I
There you go.
There we go. So that's my invoice, which is great to see, but not great to see, right? It means I'm going, but it also means it's a lot of money going out the door.
Yeah, but okay, I sincerely hope it kind of was like it was this year, like next year. I know there's gonna be more of a Hollywood influence again next year, but
So what's interesting? I've been going to San Diego Comic Con for over 20 years now,
mhm.
and so actually, I think it actually is last year. I think it was actually my 20th year, because
Yes,
there was
happy.
2 years I didn't go. So actually, it was actually my 22nd year because I went in '99, and then I didn't go in like 2016 and 2017. But yeah, no, the thing is that I knew it was a different feeling because on Wednesday the sales and interaction and the interest in small press was very strong. And traditionally, Hollywood doesn't have a presence on preview night. Hollywood is not there on, the most they do is the Warner Brothers will screen a couple of pilots,
Yep.
you know. And so a lot of people were like, oh, well, the reason why the show was good this year is because Hollywood wasn't there and people weren't lined up. And I'm like, but it was good from the go. It was good from jump. So that doesn't quite track, in my opinion. I do think it helped that people weren't lined up for extended periods of time, but I don't know if Hollywood not being there. I think people, because of the pandemic, because we didn't have the full-on show for 2 years, and then we had kind of like 20, they had a special edition, and then they had the year after special edition, which was still kind of like a hybrid, like there really wasn't a ton of stuff going on. I think people just wanted to experience something different at the show.
Yeah.
And I think this past year in 23, that was people were like, you know what, I'm going to spend more time on the floor. I'm going to see more of the booths. I'm going to go to these areas. And I think a lot of people, my feeling and a lot of the feedback off of people is they enjoyed that. So I'm hoping that 24, like you said, is going to be more of the same. It's going to be people coming back to small press, realizing, oh, that's actually where all the good stuff is. That's where all the good stuff is that I can't get at home, because small press doesn't have a giant budget to market to every comic store around the country.
I want more American clientele by the time I get to San Diego next year. But my big thing was I'm in Canada, so
yeah,
pro-
yeah, it is a little different.
I legitimately wanted to buy more books, like legit, but there was this.
But
the thing was that you guys were laughing at me slightly out of pity. I was laughing too, slightly out of despair, because it was just like it's just too much of a disparity.
Yeah, right. If you look at the stuff and you're like, it's just, because I know you, and you're looking at this stuff going, this is genuinely good. This is entertaining. I want to dive into this, but I also have a limited amount of stuff I can carry in my suitcase back home.
There's that, but also there's, again, just like it's like this. So $20 American is $30. Oh God. All right, that's kind of it. I got a couple.
One of the reasons why I love going to Vancouver from Seattle.
Vancouver's beautiful for you because you're like, hey, this is a day off for me, right? California can, right? Because here's the other thing too, like California and Canada in terms of price points are very close, right? Very, very close. So it wasn't like if it was any other state, I would have gotten a bit of the price point difference at least. But not California.
California is too expensive. Doesn't matter what side of the border you're coming from.
No, exactly. No, California is ridiculous. I mean, but in a perfect world, though, man, if I were to live somewhere in the States, I like San Diego. The city itself is very nice. So,
yeah, San Diego is beautiful. I mean, again, it's one of those things when people say, "Oh, was Comic Con going to leave San Diego?" It's like yes, there are larger convention centers. Yes, there's areas that have a more centralized location, but one, the city fully embraces Comic-Con International. Yep. They allow them to do so much and they give them so much leeway. And again, it's because they've been there for 50 years. But I don't know of any other city in the world would give them that much. I mean, I live in Seattle and we have Emerald City Comic Con, and that's a very large show. But I know the organizers who started that show, and I've talked to them, and they were like, "Yeah, it was a complete uphill battle, pain in the ass to try to get advertisements on the side of buses for the show, you
Mhm.
know, and put banners up in the city and that kind of stuff. And they were trying to emulate what Comic Con was doing, and they just had so many hurdles to jump through, and so many issues, and that kind of. And I'm just kind of like there were radio stations that turned them down to do ticket giveaways, in
Wow.
Seattle. And it's like, why would you do that? Like, and they're like, oh, well, it doesn't fit into our format right now. It's like that no, you know. I mean,
I
granted, Emerald City isn't selling out in 6 minutes like Comic Con is, so maybe that's part of it, right? Well, I don't know, but it was weird that these guys were having problems getting the city involved, you know, to be a part of the culture.
I mean, it's the opposite, right? Like San Diego's like, hey, we'll try. Let's just go all in on this, right? And the thing is,
I mean,
you could arguably put the San Diego Comic Con in LA, but the problem with LA is it would just be one.
no.
Yeah.
Do you know why? Do you know why it'll never work in LA? And it's the same reason why it barely works to WonderCon in Anaheim. San Diego as a city, the county of San Diego is the ones that put the price regulation on the hotels. They don't allow them to overcharge. In LA, they would literally just be like, hotels charge $1 billion a night. We don't care.
Yep.
You know? And the only reason why I believe, in my opinion, again, I don't have any inner workings of Comic Con and Anaheim and the city and that kind of stuff, but I think the reason why Anaheim is doable is because of Disney. Because Disney's the one pretty much telling the city of Anaheim, no, we need to keep prices at a certain level because we need to constantly have flow of income. You know, and when you have a
Yep.
moneymaker like Disney there, they're going to listen.
Well, I mean, you'd have to be a complete idiot to crap on your golden goose. Like you'd have to be.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
I'm not. I'm not going to say at this point in my life that I'm not saying that people aren't stupid enough to crap on their golden goose. I live in Canada. I have seen some incredibly dumb things from the
Mm-hmm.
people that don't value Canadian talent the most, believe it or not, are Canadians. Like it's Canadians by a mile. Like
Oh
Americans are
yeah,
like, oh, it's cool, you can do this shit. In Canada, it's like meh, and you're like, I don't
it's old hat.
understand.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I just like it's like I don't
no, it's the
understand,
same.
right?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, you look at things all over the world, and
And the internet
it's
has
just
frozen. Is it your end or my end?
you sit there and go like, really? That's where you're gonna? Oh no,
Oh yes.
no,
Can you
you're
hear me?
still. Oh, now you're frozen. So I'm gonna say
Okay.
it's your end. You're kind of going in and out.
Okay. Hold on a
Yep.
sec here. 1 sec here. Bam, bam, bang. I have frozen. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh shit. Gotta love this. Gotta love this. All right, give me a second
Yes.
here. All right. No, it's not. It's you. Okay, gotcha. Well, folks, so we'll be hopefully doing this right back here. Here we go. 1 sec here.
Well, that was weird. Can you hear
It
me?
was. I can hear you. I can't see you.
Okay, because I can't see you either.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This has been a strange and
Uh.
wacky experience. I'm on the air. Like I can watch myself on Twitch, which is weird. So
Right.
oh, there you
Oh,
go.
there
You're
you are.
back. You're back.
And then you're back on my side.
Okay. I
That
am
was
really
weird.
so. You just probably missed me. I'm here. Are you? I'm very tempted to say no. I'm not here, Tom. But I think you already know that. So. See, this is how I know
Fine.
we're. This is how I know we're friends. See, I can mock myself, and you're like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go with it. I'm just gonna.
I'm just gonna go.
Yeah, yeah. So, like I was saying
Yeah.
right before
Just
things got weird, like, and you were saying it's a tendency, we have a tendency to take for granted like our own talent here, like especially I don't know, I think there's a little bit of that everywhere, but I think Canadians especially are guilty of this. They're the guiltiest people I've seen on this, because the one thing I will say about down in the States, and this I will give you, there's more no matter where you go in the States, there's more platforms to get stuff out there. Now, whether people appreciate them or not, that's a different
right,
that's
or
a conversation.
utilize them properly. Right. Yeah, that's a different conversation entirely. But yeah, you're right. There are definitely more outlets.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. Like, there's a natural indication for a platform to kind of look at. So it's much better here. Like that's the thing. Like I was trying to disappear this year from where I'm at, and I'm going to disappear for sure in the spring. I don't care what I have to do it. I'm going to do it. But one of the reasons is just like it's looking for that right people, that right community thing, and I think just for what I do in general, I'm better suited in the States than I am up here. That's just that's
yeah. I mean, that definitely might be true. It also might be a population density
yes.
thing. So the areas that you think about in the States for doing things like podcasting or doing things like social media or doing entertainment wise, you think of California, you think of LA, you think of New York, those are very densely populated, areas. Um, so yes, I think in what you want to do in the areas you want to grow in, absolutely. It definitely I think would benefit you. But the flip side of that also then becomes, you need to live in a densely populated area, which densely populated areas come with, higher prices for things, higher taxes, higher, like
Well,
so it becomes the
there's always trade-offs, right? So, but like I said, for me, like the current
right.
journey in my
Yep.
life, current like final destination thing is I'm trying to figure out where I fit exactly. And I know I don't. I know it's not here just because of the inability to connect here. It's funny. I've said this on a few shows. When
Yes.
I went to California, San Diego, even ignoring the Comic Con, it was really easy to connect with people down there. Like, it was just really easy. Now, I'm not saying that that's
Yeah.
the exact spot I want to be, but even ignoring the con, people were just friendly and just wanting to chat. Like here, it's the opposite.
So the funny thing is, yeah. So it's interesting. I think because I definitely know this goes for the East Coast of the United States as well. The further north you get, the more introverted and locked in people get.
Yeah.
So, like, because I experienced that here in Seattle, Seattle, Washington, it's right next to Canada. Everybody in Seattle is very in their own head, very introverted kind of deal. Whereas even when I go to, Southern California, it is more of a personable exchange, I guess is an easy word to use in that
Yes.
sense. And same thing when you go to, I mean, I grew up in New York, again, the north side of the country. And, you know, people were very direct, but it's like you go down south, in like Georgia, or you go to, South Carolina, or, those where they talk about the quote unquote Southern charm, and there's definitely some truth to that, you know.
Oh
They
yeah.
want to interact with you, even if it's literally on a 10-minute basis, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and so those are areas I think that certain mentalities are locked in,
Yeah.
and I think connecting is one of them.
I like we were talking about the pandemic earlier, right? I think what happened was people kind of went into one of three categories, right? They either became more introverted, right? If you had more
Right.
introverted tendencies, you became more introverted. I think there was an
Mm-hmm.
equilibrium, almost like the elastic bands, going back to what kind of a pre. There have been some changes as a result of the pandemic, and some of them are
Right.
good, some of
Yeah.
them are not so good. But I think there's like a normalcy level, and then there's another group of people. I think this is
Mm-hmm.
where I fit in, that want to connect with people more as the result of the
More
pandemic,
so
because you
because you realize
realize,
what you lost.
yeah, exactly, right. And so
Yeah.
And I just think I'm in one of those areas that just wants to just, we're going to go in our own little corners of the universe. And there's nothing wrong with that, really. It's just not where I am in my life. You know, maybe when I'm like 80, you know, and I don't want to talk to anybody anymore, I'll go back to that. I'll go into the mountain. You know?
That's that meme out there right now because of the holiday times. It says, you know, the older I get, the more I identify with the Grinch. You know, he didn't hate Christmas; he hated people.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No, that's just it, right? Like the Grinch. If you look at the Grinch, he's like someone broke his heart a long time ago. I don't know who it was, but someone really hurt him.
Yeah.
And he decided, like all good villains, he decided to be angry. Instead of being angry at himself, he decided to be angry at the whole world. I kind of respect that.
Yeah. Look, if you're gonna go hard, right?
Exactly.
If you're going all the way, you know, go Victor Von Doom style, right? Yeah. You know, just basically take over your own country and say it's everybody else's fault.
That's right. you know. I hate to say it, there is some truth that's like, hey, you let me take over, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there is some truth to that. You know, I have a theory. And this is something I've realized. Again, one of those gotten older, wiser, like epiphany things.
Right.
And it's like, you know, people treat us the way we want to be treated. And then I realized that it's like, oh, wait a minute. You mean it's my fault? Fuck.
You're like, hold up. When did I become the person that makes the call? I don't like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then I just realized that, and just like, you know, I have a very simple. I have a simple rule. It's just like, you know, I'll make the effort if you do, and if you don't, I ain't gonna chase you. Fuck it.
Well, you know, I mean, again, I'm kind of the same way. You know, I'm the kind of person that I will put out the energy that I get back. Right. So if somebody, you know, gives me very low energy, you know, I'm not gonna sit there and be woo. You know, I'm gonna kind of match their energy level. And if someone doesn't really want to, you know, or someone's very much outgoing, and you know, so I was actually texting with a friend of mine last night, and he said, you know what? He goes, I actually really miss hanging out with you, because we would just go out to random places and hang out and do stuff. And then we moved a little bit further away from each other. He's like, you know, I miss that. I miss just hanging out and doing goofy stuff. And I'm like, well, let's set some time aside and go do goofy stuff. You know,
that's right. Chase those raccoons, Tom.
Now it's a little bit easier. Yeah, now it's a little easier because, you know, he's moved a little closer, you know, to where I am now, so it becomes something that is more possible. But I think, you know, again, you know, during the pandemic, he was much like you. He realized, oh wait, I lost a lot of connections because of the pandemic, you know, and so I kind of want to get some of them back, you know, and I want to interact more. You know,
well, there's that, but there's also like this was the thing that coming up here taught me. It's like, if I have to go into a place, I would rather go to a place where I am surrounded by complete strangers than going to a place with familiar faces that treat me like a complete stranger, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and I think, I don't know if enough people embrace that concept, right? Because I think if more people pay more attention to that situation, I think more people would be in the same boat as you, wanting to be in a room of strangers than be, you know, because at least with strangers, you have no idea what might result in the interactions.
Well, I just think like what tends to happen is there's an old saying, familiarity breeds contempt, and there's some truth to that. I think a little bit. But I also think what it comes down to is people take for granted that, like, people have already kind of gotten back to that point of, listen, I'm going to get caught in my own little world and doing my own little thing. And there's nothing wrong with this, by the way, folks. If you are listening to me, it's just something that but what tends to happen is, if we have anything on the peripheral, we put it off. And what happens is time only goes one way. Like, it only goes one way.
Right.
So if you put it off too long, it's not going to come back. And like I said, and again, everybody's going through their own parts in life. I had one particular connection. She's like, no, she's like, nah, man, I just got so many things on the go, and she was honest about it. So it was just like that's it thing. But for the most part, I just realized like I think up here, one of the things I noticed was just people got comfortable in their distance, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say that's necessarily the wrong answer, but it's not my answer. And that's something I kind of
Right. No, and
realized.
it's not mine either. Yeah. And I think, you know, and I definitely think that more people, like you said, they're slowly starting to come back to that mindset. You
Yeah.
know, we had
I
three
hope.
years where everyone told everybody stay away from each other. You know.
Well, yeah. The pandemic was weird on many
Yeah.
levels. Weird.
Yeah.
I think after what happened, the way things worked out, I'm not so sure if another pandemic was announced, we would do it the exact. I think there'd be a more open results next time. I actually really do believe that, just
Yeah.
based on just how it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, just on
100%.
how it went the
You know.
first time. I just think that a lot of mistakes were made, and like I said, we're not going to go into like. I'm sure that that's a conversation that neither of us really want to go, but just like I realize that's never going to happen
It's a
again.
conversation that doesn't really go anywhere. You
Yeah,
know, that
exactly.
conversation doesn't go anywhere. It goes, but you know, it's just, eh, eh, you know,
You know,
eh,
yeah, it's like, yeah. So I'm gonna
yeah.
ask this.
But
I ask this because I know you're the editor in chief. So the way I grasp this, with going back to you and Alex really quick right here, you're the filter.
yeah,
Is that accurate?
to some extent, yeah.
Yeah.
So originally, when we started the company, we definitely wanted to have a delineation between the two of us, and I was supposed to be more of the creative end because that's my specialty. That's more where I feel more comfortable. And then Alex was supposed to be more of the business end and handle things like advertising or distribution or you know um media type stuff, right? Well, then what kind of happened as we got further along with the company, this is one of the things that makes comic book industry very unique, is that you can't have a very strong delineation, at least in my experience. Again, I don't own a multi-million-dollar corporation. I'm not Marvel. Maybe Marvel and DC and those guys can have a delineation, but I mean, Alex, it's very hard for somebody like Alex to talk to distribution when he's not sure of the projects that we've got coming out or how they're developing, or like, so that does fall more on me. Same thing with like some of the advertising. He needs graphics and he needs artwork to do the advertising. Well, that kind of comes from my department as well. So we kind of have this weird hybrid, which is one of the reasons why this year, and probably next year as well, Alex took much more of a front and center role at the convention at San Diego, because that's definitely more of a business end kind of thing. Whereas, yes, I know the products through and through, frontwards and backwards and everything like that, because I immersed myself in them. But that might not be the best thing in terms of trying to somebody who doesn't know them,
Yeah.
right? Like you said, if I'm too familiar with them, it's all trees, not seeing the forest. And so that's why he took much more of a front center role. And honestly, I mean, I got to give him credit. As much as it pains me to do so, I also think that's one of the reasons why our sales were better this year,
Yeah.
is because he was there and he was doing more of a marketing role, which is what he is really good at.
I also
Um,
think I was talking. Okay, again. So this is a little bit of a paraphrase from his interview. I look at your like the committed
right.
comics as I hope you take this the right way. The fun comics line. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily think you're going for Shakespeare, and I'm not. And what I mean by that is that you're not going for like the big epic hit. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it's not
Right. Right.
right.
I would
What
much rather get 5 products out there that are entertainment based and fun, opposed to one multi-trillion-dollar movie license.
Yes.
And people look at me and sometimes they think I'm crazy, and then other people understand why it is, because I'd much rather see 5 products with my name on it that I know I help people get into a store than one product that's on the bestseller list.
Well, yeah, because
that's dumb. I don't know.
No, it's not, because it's in the long run, a hit would be cool. Don't get me wrong. A hit has its right. advantages, but the right. hit should come from for you guys to sustain your hit. It have to come from a very authentic place in your company, right? That's yes. where like if you're let's say your current project, you sell 1 million of those and get a deal, okay? Now, never mind the fact right. that Alex would hold that over you for the rest of his life, right? Never mind that for just a second, right? It's the fact that
he'd get a tattoo on his forehead just so
he probably would, and I would 100% support it. Hell, I might too at that point. I would do that, all right? But here's the thing, but that hit would stick, and that hit would be true to you guys' brand. So I feel like in that particular case, if you hit that home run,
right,
you can jump in.
Well, so the funny thing is that I've been doing comic books in some way, shape, or form, whether it be retailer, publishing, creating, art directing. I've been doing comic books for, over 25 years at this point, probably close to 30 years. I've seen a tremendous amount of hugely selling projects and incredible IPs that come out of nowhere and shot to the stars. And just like a flare, they have burned up and they have disappeared. And then nobody knows who they are in a year or 5 years. And then you see things that are slow burn, like something along the lines of Strangers in Paradise or Bone, right? In those 2 products. I mean, those are 2 people, creators and series I love. Terry Moore's just been grinding, and he's been very successful. Don't get me wrong, but he's told the stories he's wanted to tell.
Yep.
He's done, like you said, he's one of those rare unicorns where he's doing everything himself and that kind of stuff. And he's had offers, and he has worked for companies like Marvel, and he has done stuff, and he has done larger projects, larger companies. But you ask anybody who's read Strangers in Paradise, if you ask them if they're going to get the next series that Terry does, and I literally just saw a tweet this evening when I was coming home. Terry tweeted that he's been sitting on the beach, and his next entire series came to him already.
Nice.
If you ask any one of the people who read Strangers in Paradise, are you going to buy that? Every single one of them would be like, 1,000% I'm buying that. We don't know what it is. We have no idea what it is. We just know, like you said, it came from an authentic, his success has come from an authentic place to where it's going to be good.
Well, it's also like, okay, for example, Bill's book. I love Naira. Yeah. It's fun. Right? Naira is just a fun book. It makes no bones about what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I haven't gotten the first issue. I haven't gotten the first issue yet. I'm going to do that next time I go. I'm going to make it. I actually, the thing I really wanted from you guys, and I just couldn't afford it, was the Naira omnibus you guys have for all its older stuff. Because I want that, just because I know it makes no sense in like continuity. Yeah, that one, exactly.
Yep.
Right.
It's what is it? I think that's almost 40 years worth of books.
Yeah.
Because it's 3 different miniseries. But and so it's a good stuff.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, it's him, and so like Terry's one of my favorite creators. Now, for my money, like this is just my personal opinion, Motor Girl's the best thing he's ever done.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion.
Love Motor Girl.
Yeah, right. It's a good one, right? And so I like, right? I think it's his best one, because I think he has, and this is a huge compliment to Terry. He's got a very funny, charming style, like in terms of how he tells a story. But when he wants to be serious and really hit you, he really can. And Strangers, is definitely what he's known for my money, I think he hits the nail on the head in Motor Girl so hard, especially towards the end.
Yeah, and Motor Girl was really good, and I think it was also because of the fact that it was a shorter story, right? Strangers in Paradise, it's many years worth of storytelling,
Oh yeah.
Whereas Motor Girl, and I think he needed that in order to perfect his craft, right? Like, again, you talk about, doing 1,000 hours of anything makes you a master.
Absolutely.
You do 175 issues or whatever, how many issues that was. Actually, I think it was only like 110 or something like that. But still,
that's so impressive.
Yeah, it's hugely impressive. So, but yeah, I mean, Motor Girl was incredible. I mean, one of my favorites, and again, I mean, I love Strangers in Paradise. I love Motor Girl. Rachel Rising, to me, his horror.
That's my favorite long form of his. That's my favorite long form.
Yeah, it's just, I think he just brought storytelling, at least his storytelling, to a different level, and utilizing
here's an interesting thing.
Things we know.
He was one of my earliest guests actually on this show. Like,
really?
We're talking pre 100.
Wow.
like all my bad quality in terms of audio quality, but I got Terry Moore to come on my show. Oh, my first 100 have some has some really cool like Easter eggs. Terry Moore, J.M. DeMatteis, Riley Rossmo are all in that first 100.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Wow.
So yeah, so you right. But Terry, he's such a good storyteller, but again, he's true to who he is, and that. Yeah. So when he does get these, okay, Rachel Rising was possibly going to be a television show. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen anymore because, again, we talked about earlier, people messing up those gravy trains. Sometimes that does happen. I feel that happened there. I'm not, again, I don't know. I'm just. Yeah. But if he got that TV show, if he got that movie, right, and it was Rachel Rising,
yeah,
or if it was Motor Girl, or if it was Parker Girls, or if it was, I don't think Serial has long form potential. Although I would pop at the child serial killer like that'd be a fun one.
Yeah,
but whatever.
That would be a good hour and 45 minutes. That'd be a good movie.
Yeah, it'd be a fun movie, right? But the thing is,
they could definitely do that. Yeah, they could definitely do that movie.
Yeah, they could do it as a movie for sure. But the thing is, it's him. It's not him doing like She-Hulk. It's him. It's a legitimate him. Yeah. And going back to you guys, I think any of your books that got to that next level as they currently are, I think it would be a hit that would sustain for that very same reason. I don't again. This has always been the big impression I've gotten from both of you. You don't pretend to be who you're not, right? You are who you are. What you see is what you get, right?
And well, and that's one of the things, because of the fact that I've been the art director for this company for such a long time. I mean, people have always asked me over the years, they're like, well, how come you don't have a manga style book? How popular manga is right now and how popular all those things are. And I flat out told people, I said, I don't know manga. I don't know how to market it. I don't know how to, it's a different beast. You can't do it the same with a standardized American comic book. And people always kind of find that funny. They're just like, well, why don't you learn? And I go, well, that's not what I want. That's not, like you were saying, it's not me. It's, all the projects that we've cultivated are me to some degree. They're things that I find interesting. They're things that I think are really worthy to get out there,
Well, yeah.
And to do a genre just because that genre is popular, I don't think that is a good idea.
Unless you happen to be in the middle of, if it's already what you're already doing, sure. But I mean, you gotta be. I mean,
if your genre becomes popular, that's different,
Yeah, no. The last thing, I would the last thing. I mean, although I do somehow see you guys doing a zombie retelling of a classic just for shits and giggles, right? I could see it hypothetically,
yeah,
right? that doesn't
Yeah,
that shouldn't be your go-to if zombies get hot. You know what I mean? Or a vampire story like
right.
retelling, right? Like that's not. A lot of people go right to the market. It's like that's not how it works. The market evolves all the time, and especially today, like the market isn't just one thing. It's
Yeah,
all over the place. Like you talk about
yeah,
manga, okay? I love manga. I'm one of those guys that likes manga.
yeah.
I think it's really good.
Mhm.
Their good ones are really good. The bad ones are really shit, and that's just like much like comics. There's really good ones. There's really bad ones, and bless everybody's heart for trying. Right? That's all you can do, right?
Right.
And but even so, it's like you coming in there, it's like, hey, listen, Spy X Family is amazingly popular right now, and I somehow the reason I picked that one is that of all the ones all the manga I currently am thinking, that's the one I think he would make you genuinely laugh your ass off, right? But
Mhm.
that all said, that's not who you guys are, and you shouldn't try to be something you're not, because I think what would be worse. Imagine you actually succeeding at something you're not, and you're stuck with it. Wouldn't that be hell?
Yeah, yeah. There's been a couple of like I've heard stories of different like stand-up comics, like they do a character and that character hits and they're just like, oh, they're miserable, but that's what everybody wants to hear, right? It's just like, yeah, I don't want to do that, you know. So,
Well, I think there's a point. There's a certain point in every art. Let's say you become really successful at whatever it is you do. You're doing fan service at some point. I don't think that's a bad thing. So the question is then,
no.
what kind of fan service do you want to do? Because that's going to be because if
Yeah,
it does hit, you're going to be doing that all the time,
right. Yeah.
right? Like I go musicians. Okay, I'm going to go old. Metallica. I love Enter Sandman. They have done that
Mhm.
song to death.
Right.
Probably sometimes they're
Yeah.
sick of it. Sometimes. But
Yeah.
everybody wants to hear it. So, and they're getting
Yeah.
like,
I mean, that's like, that's like one hit wonders, right? Like, how do you think they feel? Everyone knows them for one song and they have to play it every single set they do.
hey, listen, I think it depends on the one hit wonder. Like, I'm a big, like, remember Survivor? Like, Eye of the Tiger?
Yeah.
Somehow,
Hmm.
I don't think they could board of that. It's like, wait, this gets us to the party? Sweet.
Well, again, there were certain one hit wonders that had talent, and then there were certain one hit wonders that they just wanted to get in the door.
That's right.
I'll let the public decide where Survivor and Eye of the Tiger sits, but
Hey, listen, I have the Rocky movies in my head right this minute. I don't know if that says something about me or Survivor, but we'll just leave it at that. But
yeah, that's
okay, so I
funny.
gotta ask this. Again, you've been mostly behind the scenes. This is you going to the forefront now.
Yeah,
Like, it sounds like you've learned a lot.
I did, and one of the biggest things that I've learned, and it was probably the hardest thing that I learned, was I can only do one thing at a time. Meaning that when I was writing the story, I was sitting there as I was writing it, editing it in my head, and also trying to figure out how Joe Martinez, the artist who's working on the book with me, how he was going to interpret this and how he was going to draw it and what the layout was going to look like. And doing all of those things in the 2 weeks that I set aside to work on the project, I think I might have gotten 3 panels in because
Yeah.
I just was stopping myself from actually telling the story. So I had to turn off all those other voices in my head and just be the writer, which was hard
You had to write the story, and
because I had
you
never
had to
done that
go,
before.
"Hey, what about? Nope, shut up, voice. We can get
Yep.
that's editing.
Yep.
We'll get
And
to that later.
yep.
Finish the
Yeah.
story."
And so, right. And so I had to write it out. I spent, like I said, I spent 2 weeks. I might have gotten a page done. And then I finally took a week off and had to explain to myself that I couldn't do that. And then I figured out, oh, okay, how do I do this? And so I figured out the steps to do it. And then I was able to write the entire first issue without a problem. And actually, I wrote the entire first issue and then wrote a good chunk of the second issue. And then I stopped and I said, okay, well, now it's time to put on the editor hat, and go back and see, does the transition from, this section of the story work to this section of the story? And as I edited through, I realized, oh no, some of it worked, some of it didn't work. And some of the second issue won't work because we changed things in the first issue, you know? Um, and then I had to send it off to Joe to do the breakdowns and the thumbnails. And, when I got back the thumbnails and I've gotten back some of the pages now and that kind of stuff, and we have about a third of the book, finished, I had to restructure some of the storytelling and totally change how the second issue is going to go. So, which is good, like that's what I want. I want a collaboration element to it.
Well, yeah, you want the best story possible, and more often than not, you want to make sure that the artist feels as invested in it as you do. The worst thing you want to do is give an artist like a set of instructions. They follow those instructions, guy or else, and because you won't get the best story out of them.
No. I mean, I'll get what's written on the page, but it's a comic book. It's a graphic novel. It's not a novel, right? Like, I don't want what's only on the page. I want what my collaborator and the other person who visualizes it, what they see between the pages, between the words.
So I'm going to ask this: do you have like a master? Like, do you know what? Do you have a general idea of the beats for all 4 issues prior to this, or have you been writing by the seat of your pants?
So I have certain things I want to hit in every issue. And I've kind of decided to literally keep it very loose in that respect. So I have the certain beats that I want to hit, or let me not the beats, but the certain actions or elements in each issue. So, issue 1, my goal was pretty much to introduce all the characters. As simple as that sounds, that was my goal. And I succeeded in that. In issue 2, the goal is to pretty much take those characters and I want to have them show how each one of them interact with Sancho. And then issues 3, I have, another thing, but how I get there, I have a loose plan that I've kind of detailed out, but I definitely know that, as I refine it, that will probably change.
Oh yeah, sometimes
like I said, I mean, a good chunk of what I wrote for issue 2 when I was writing issue 1 doesn't work anymore because I edited and changed a lot of things.
I've been there, like writing novels. I just finished writing a novel, and I was like, so for I'm not going to give away too much, but so I had this idea of who the big bad guy was going to be in this novel when I started writing this. When I got to the end, it was someone I didn't entirely expect it to be. It was like, how did this happen? And then I read what I wrote. It's like, well, it makes sense. Plan, rip. But you need that plan. Like, you have to have an idea. You have to have at least when you start some idea where you're going.
Right. You have to understand that there is a path out there. The map you have might not be to the correct path, but you have a map that shows a path.
So I call someone that plots and somewhere between plotting and pantsing a planter. That's what I call myself. I feel like you're somewhere in that. I feel like, again, comics is slightly different because again, you're more like in a band. You might be the lead singer, right? I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I've never heard you sing, so I mean, I can only imagine. No, would I give you money to never do it again?
No, because sometimes you like to torture your friends. So they're...
Okay, so I'd pay you to torture my friends. Gotcha. So you're at that level.
Yeah. That's right.
Gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah. I'm high up there. No, but you're right. Like the lead singer of the band sometimes doesn't write the songs, right? So, it doesn't mean that they're not a good singer, but it also means that they're not really driving the band, so to speak.
Well, no, because again, everybody has a voice. Like I said, Alex has a voice of Sancho. Joe, like
Yeah.
your artist has a voice.
Mm.
Voice. I don't know how deep your creative team is, so I can't really say about everybody else. But I would even. It's amazing how sometimes like, about even like letters are often underrated in terms of comics. For example,
Oh,
they're very
100%.
underrated because when they do their
100%. Yeah.
job, most people don't notice them, right? And that's to
So
their credit.
I always believe that as well. I believe that as well. I've always believed that a very good letterer, you know, is somebody who you don't notice, but they make you feel a certain way.
Yes.
And then I was talking to Todd Klein, who's probably the GOAT. He's the Michael Jordan of letterers.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually was like, no, I disagree. He's like, the letterers, he goes, you definitely know when there's bad letters. He goes, but a good letterer, you will notice
No,
because they
it's
will stand out and embellish the work. And I said, I was like, you know what? I never thought of it that way, but I didn't mean that you wouldn't notice them. I meant that they would seamlessly integrate into the art.
well. I think okay.
You
I
know,
think in like lettering, this is what I would say to Todd. It's just that it's so
mm,
easy, and this is actually I think to everybody's detriment, not just me saying this. I think they're the one job in a comic. It's the easiest to take for granted. There's an art form to it. In fact, you can
yeah,
do an awful lot with lettering to embellish what's going on in a comic. And great
right.
letterers do it all the time. But I
Mm.
also feel like it's the one part of the art where it's like people just don't notice it sometimes, right?
Well, I think a lot of people who aren't professional letterers equate it more to typesetting,
Yep.
which in this day and age, because of the way that digital lettering is going, I hate to say it leans more towards typesetting, but again, a good letter won't let it lean all the way into typesetting.
No,
You know,
I mean, there's some truth to that because I guess again, way digital is gone. But even so,
right? Yeah,
okay. So this is a like I mentioned Riley earlier. I personally hated the comic. I didn't hate the art. I just hated the comic, but I got it because he drew it. Cowboy Ninja
right.
Viking.
Yeah.
I hated it.
Okay.
I hated it. It's a very I think the nicest way I can say that story it was a not it was not it was what would happen if Axe Cop wasn't fun, by and large,
Was it
right?
fun?
Okay, if Axe Cop wasn't
Okay.
fun, and anyone that doesn't know what I'm talking
Okay.
about, Axe Cop is amazing. It really is. If
Yeah.
you have
Go
not
check
seen,
out X Cop for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I know, right? Like if you've never seen it, you should. It's one of the best. Again, you go along for the ride with that one, and once you get the caveat, it's great. But
Right. Yeah.
I love the lettering in Cowboy Ninja Viking. That's the one thing I
Okay.
thought that was phenomenal because the Cowboy, the Ninja, and the Viking each had different lettering, so you could tell which one was actually speaking,
Gotcha.
right?
Right. Even if they're not on panel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I thought it's like I thought the lettering was amazing. I think it was the best thing in that book. I love Riley's art, but I honestly think from a story perspective, the best thing
Hmm.
was the lettering, and it was just like but yeah, but I mean, but it showed me right there. It's like wow, you could do a lot with lettering if you have the right book. It can be
Yeah.
incredible. And in fact, I just mentioned Nax Cop. That's a good book. That's a good example of a book that definitely uses the entire art form to come up with some of the wildest and most imaginable things
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. And each element leans on the other
Yep.
when necessary, which is nice. You know?
Yeah. No. Again, just completely buys into what it's doing, and it's great.
Right.
Like it's great.
Yeah.
Right. So, right. So, but again, to anyone that hasn't listened to it, yeah, you definitely should check out that book at some point if you haven't.
Yeah.
But that all said, it's like comics is an art form. Like going to your book, I don't know like your full creative team, but I imagine is like I said, everybody's got a little bit of a voice, if nothing else, because there's always good ideas from artistic people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've definitely taken, you know, taken some suggestions and and allowed like our colorist. So as of right now, it's me writing it. Joe Martinez is doing all the line work. So it's doing it all digital, which again for me is a big departure because I'm way more of a traditional guy. I'd much rather have someone pencil it and someone ink it. But Joe basically showed me his resilience and adaptability into doing both. And I was like, you know what? This is a time for me to kind of grow and let go of what I would want and have him again, like you said, put out the best book possible, right? And so, he demonstrated to me that he can pages digitally. So why not go with that, right? Like we all want the best thing. And so, and then Raymond Lee is coloring it, and he's like not changing the mood, but he's definitely enhancing the mood for the element storytelling parts that I want. Because again, he's an artist himself. He understands that certain color combinations and certain tones and certain shadows can enhance what the feeling is. And it's very funny that we've spent a lot of time talking about different letterers, and that's the one area I don't have somebody yet. I'm still
Yeah.
looking for that last little component because I do have some people who I can call upon, but I don't feel that they're a good fit for the project.
Yep.
So I'm still looking for that thing, that last person.
Do you have an idea in your head what you're looking for?
I need somebody who's very adaptable. So the concept with the book, it's Sancho who is crazy and he's kind of like an insane genie. Um, he attaches himself to this family and he's like, I'm going to help guide your lives and make your lives better. You know, Unfortunately, he thinks he's a chipmunk. So it's like kind of hard when the person who's supposed to be enhancing your life doesn't have his own life figured out. So 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 a large portion of the book is he's telling a story. So there is a story within the story, right? Which has a
so,
completely different art team. So I need
uh,
somebody who can adapt to multitudes of different art stories.
my question here, Sancho doesn't sound like he's very reliable. Is that a
I
fair
don't know what you're talking
assessment?
about. I don't know what you're talking about. No, it's not that he's like Alex. I'm not. No, I don't know what you're talking about. So
Just something inside me just said, I get the feeling that what he says and what I'm going to see on the page may not exactly go head to head. And I think that could work. I mean, unreliable
you know,
narrators are, they can
I'm
be
I'm
very entertaining. You know,
I'm just saying that the characters in the first issue they want something and they get something.
yeah.
Whether it be like a monkey paw type story, we'll have to see.
Well, it does have a certain bit of monkey paw to it, although I'm not entirely sure it's quite monkey paw because I'm not sure how you put the genie away. Right? Like the thing about the monkey paw is it ends once the paw closes, it's over.
Yeah,
Right?
no, it's not quite. No, it's kind of like if the monkey paw's closing, Sancho's inside the hand going like this, keeping it open.
Yep.
Whether that's good or bad is the different story entirely. Um,
Well,
no,
he's
so
pretend
so
he's
the
pretending to
story
be a.
within the
Sorry, go on.
he's not pretending he's a chipmunk. He thinks he is a chipmunk.
Well, okay. How to word this? Okay, this is a dude that has a certain construct of what his reality is. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and just going based on Disney cartoons back in the day, Chip and Dale are not exactly what I want. Well, I want someone to guide my life into the best possible future, right?
I don't know
If
if you look closely at Chippendale, it was Indiana Jones and Magnum PI.
oh,
I
Rescue
mean,
Rangers,
that's a pretty
absolutely bumps.
good.
No, absolutely, right? But I mean, I'm
The
talking the
originals,
older
yeah, the
ones.
original Chippendale. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. I get. You. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, and yeah,
Also,
I'm there with you.
yeah.
Um,
Although, why didn't they give Dale a mustache? That's the one thing I'm gonna. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's the one thing they should have done in Rescue Rangers. And
because he's a chipmunk.
So what?
Chipmunk don't have facial hair.
Monterey Jack had a mustache. He had a mustache. Why couldn't Dale?
So because of the fact that there's a story within a story, that art style is also going to be completely different. Yeah. So Joe is not drawing that story in a story. I'm having a completely different art team do that. To keep it interesting, to keep it different, because again, I still want the overall voice of Committed Comics is new talent showcase. That's what Committed Comics has always been. And so this allows me to continue to have a section for new talent showcase. It's basically going to be a 10 to 12 page story within the story, and
I can't wait. I really legitimately can't wait for this. Like I said, going full circle here, going full circle here. I heard about this in July, folks. So when I heard about this in July, there was a little part of me that's just like, yes.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
finally came true.
Yeah, right. At the same time, but I can see where you got your way on it too, because it's not just a straight. It is a straight Sansa story, but it isn't. Not just because he thinks he's a chipmunk, but because you're keeping true to the mission statement of your company, which is something I think you cared about a lot.
Yeah, no, and that's one of the things I am very happy about, the company, the way it's gone, and the story within the story for the first issue, it still keeps with the mission statement of new talent showcase, but it's new talent showcase that we did years ago. So it's kind of weird because we repurposed the story that we told in a very small print run of a book that we did over 10 to 12 years ago. And so the story within a story is written by Danny Donovan, who now does a ton of stuff for film. And I think he's worked with what's the people who are doing, what's that publisher that does Goosebumps? Is that, it's not Random House.
Stein?
It's yeah, but the company that publishes him. I can't remember. Scholastic.
Yeah.
Scholastic. So Danny's done a bunch of stuff with Scholastic, I believe. The person who's doing the artwork or did the artwork for the story within the story is Dustin Weaver, and Dustin Weaver is now doing stuff over at Image. He's doing Packless, he's done X-Men, he's done Shield for Marvel.
I love the Shield.
James Taylor is inking him. Yeah, and James Taylor is inking him on this story, and this story was done years and years and years ago, and it was not many people saw it. And so I was kind of like, when I was doing the first issue, not only for time, because that way I didn't have to have an art team create that, it was already done, but I also kind of looked at it going like, you know what, none of these guys were pretty much known when we published them, when we worked with them 10 to 15 years ago. So granted, now all of the creative members of the team are very successful in the comic book industry. And so I kind of thought to myself, this is the perfect kind of launching pad for the book, because in a weird twist of fate, it's the opposite. The veterans are the story within the story, and everybody who's telling the Sancho portion of the story are kind of the newcomers.
Which is fun.
Whereas later on, it'll be the opposite, right? Later on, in issue 2 and issue 3, I'm going to find people who have never had any published work in the comic book industry, and I'm going to bring them in. And so then we'll be the veterans working with the newcomers.
That's right. Be like, we know what we're doing, kind of, sort of. I think.
No. But yeah, but no. But yeah, but no.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Right?
So yeah, but it's yeah. So the Kickstarter's going now, so people can go and pledge. Just saying.
Yeah, we're almost at that point. I had one more question, then we can go to the full official pledge, and this. First, actually, I want to do this 2 parts. First off, 20 years is a hell of an accomplishment in this industry. there is a list of companies that you have outlasted, like just big time. Like like big companies too. These are like
so let me tell you, and this is again, this is one of those ideas that Alex came up with, right? And I had to, like you say, filter through, and this idea got 2/3 of the way done. And then I said, no, we can't do this. So I am now going to tell you what we could not do, which probably still is not a good idea to say, but
yeah,
what
whatever.
the hell. So you're right. We've outlasted a lot of companies, right? And so when we were going into our 15th year at Comic Con, we wanted to do flyer promoting that we lasted 15 years, as a company going into Comic Con. So I went through, because I'm a pack rat with my collectibles and that kind of stuff. I have previews from the very first time that we were solicited in previews. I have that previews and everyone since then for the most part. I went back and started scanning in company logos that no longer exist. Okay.
Oh my god.
We got to about 25 companies in the 15 years that we existed up to that point, and the flyer was going to be all of those logos with the Committed Comics logo very large in the middle, and on the bottom was going to be the tagline, came out of Alex's head, "We're still here, bitches."
It's true though.
I scanned in 20, actually I scanned in like 33 logos, and then I thought to myself, Alex, this might piss off a lot of people. Maybe we don't do this.
It's not
So
really
we abandoned it.
See, I'm at a very unique point in my life. I have come to this is the evil salesman aspect of my personality, right? I
Which is why you and Alex get along.
this, right? If they hate you, they actually have a tendency to buy more from you, right? So pushing that button once in a while, like you're laughing because you know it's true, right? Right.
And again, we pushed the button. Trust me, Alex and I have pushed buttons. Yeah.
I'm not saying
we've done it occasionally, but
I'm not saying you always want the trouble that comes with it. Like again, I'm not saying like this. I don't always cave into that impulse, but at the same time, there's a part of me now that's like, this button is fun to push, and I do it sometimes on purpose.
Well, there is that old adage that if you have haters, you're doing something right.
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually,
and so, but again, we probably could have done the flyer, and we just would have had to change it from "We're still here, bitches" to something a little bit more universal.
Well, more you could go like honestly the way around that, and this is just, and if Alex listens to this, and he goes with it, I'm sorry, but I say it like this: if you make it more of an inspiring thing, you could get away with it because, like honestly, like staying in comics, okay, companies you have outlasted, that like just a few off the top of my list: Valiant, the Ultraverse, right? Those are continuity comics.
Yeah, well, no, Techno was backed by the Sci-Fi Network on television.
Yeah, like
we outlasted CrossGen.
Yeah, you outlasted CrossGen. Like, these are big companies, folks. These aren't small ones, right?
Nope.
And you're still here, releasing comics, and none of these guys are standing. Like none of them. Nope. That's a combination of smart business, knowing who you are and knowing who you want to be. Like that's like going back to something we said earlier. You guys know who you are, and I honestly think that's your greatest strength. And I mean that, like it's a huge boon to you. And because of that, I think because of that, I don't know if you'll ever be like the big company. I don't know if you guys want to be though either, right? I'm just saying like it's one of those like know where you're going to finally end up. But
I've always said, I've always said that even if the company becomes super famous and successful, I'll still probably always have a day job.
Sure.
I'll still always have a day job because that way I'm never relying on Committee Comics to pay my rents. So therefore, I can never get bitter about it.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And maybe that's crazy, but that way I'll always love what I'm doing, even if the next project doesn't hit the way it should.
It's weird because I've been freelancing full time. I've been going through the ups and downs that have come with it. I love what I
right. Yeah.
But like for me, I love what I do. So I don't think I ever will hate it. Now there might come a point where I might go back into some kind of employment. It wouldn't be a typical day job. It would have to be something that suits my skill sets. Right. But that all said, right? Because I love what I do, right? I really, really do. I don't think the money or lack thereof sometimes will ever change that. I'm not sure that's a concern, but I also understand, like, because of how volatile it can be, the ups and the downs that come with that, right? And also depending on your spending habits, what you're into, right? You might want that day job just so I can buy my crap.
And also, let's be fair. I'm not at that level. So for all I know, when Committee Comics reaches that level, I might be like, "Peace out, bitches. I'm done with the day job."
Well, that's just it.
Who
like
knows?
You might have to, right? You might have to. It comes down to time at that point.
No,
right?
and that's the best case. Yeah, that's the best case scenario. That's the best case scenario is that I have to leave the day job because the side hustle becomes so much.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing. Like the compliment I was going to paint for you in particular is this. I don't know how big you guys are going to get. Who knows, right? But I also have gotten this feeling from both of you that you'll do this as long as it's fun for both of you. And honestly, that's a compliment. Not you know what? I may never see you in like the bestseller list, but you might have this group of people that love what you do all the time. That's what you want as an artist. You don't it doesn't matter how you have as big a group as possible. But really, as long as you have your group, does it really matter what it looks like?
Yeah. And it's very funny because that's definitely firmly how I believe. And Alex is straight up like, "No, shut up, idiot. I want millions of dollars."
Well, listen, I want millions of dollars too. I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, I've kind of gotten into this with this attitude. It's just like I can't always control my results. Right, that's the one thing you have no control of, is the result.
Yeah, and when you try to control the results, you make yourself go crazy.
Yeah, you can't do it. But what you can do, the only thing you can do, and the only honest thing you can do is, okay, am I doing everything I know how to do correctly? If the answer is yes,
and everything that I want to be able to do,
yeah, well, I want to, or I know how. There is. I think both are valid.
Yeah.
I think
and you want to get that smaller.
Well,
that distance between the two. Yeah.
But I mean, there is something to be said about everything's a learning experience. You're not going to know everything doing something, and I can accept that. What I want is, am I doing my best? Am I doing what I want? But am I doing my best at what I'm doing? If the answer is yes, then the result is going to be the result. Inevitably, I'm going to strike out sometimes, but sometimes I'm going to hit home runs too.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm going to hit singles, doubles, triples.
Yeah.
That's how it goes, right? I can't control that, but I can control how I swing at the bat.
That's called life.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about swinging at the. It's about swinging at the pitch.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
So. Yep.
So congratulations.
We can get at the plate, and we can make sure that we make sure we get to the plate as much as possible.
That's right.
And that's all we can do, right? Just make sure we get there. Yeah.
That's it. That's the real battle. Then which comes to the big question. So 20 years, So that you're so embarking on new journeys in this. What has been your biggest lesson doing this?
My biggest lesson doing this, it's kind of a double-edged sword. So I had the very rare, I don't know if it's rare, but I had definitely a very beneficial long form conversation with the legendary Jim Shooter at a convention many years ago when I would think like the third year into Committed Comics.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave me a piece of advice that I still hold true to this day. And it kind of goes along the lines of what you were saying. He was like, do it at your own pace. He goes, if you know, don't rush because someone's telling you you need to get it done by this point. He goes, you can always move deadlines, you can always move things back. Like he goes, rushing is going to be the death of you. And I have definitely done some things where I have rushed into things, and guess what? Every single one of them failed. you know, we were supposed to launch this Kickstarter like 3 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, you know what? No, like I'm not. Like I said, I mean, I set aside 2 weeks to write the first issue script, and I got not even a page done. And I was like, yeah, no, I can't go with this original deadline. So I had to push it back, and and thank God I did. Because if I had rushed into it and you know I would have so it's very funny that I use that as my one of the biggest learning tools is learning not to rush into things. But then that also goes and bites me in the ass when I put on my editor's hat, right? And I'm dealing with another creative team, and I'm telling them, no, you guys have a deadline to hit.
Well, it's a strange dichotomy, right? It's funny that
Right.
Jim Shooter of all people told you this because his
Absolutely. Yeah.
reputation is
Oh yeah. Yeah. He is definitely polarizing. But
yeah.
you look at his, like you said, you look at his home runs, and they were not even in the ballpark anymore. They were stratosphere level.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Like his Legion of Superheroes is fantastic. What he did for
Mm-hmm.
Marvel in the '80s is undeniable.
Yeah.
As much as people hate him for it.
Yeah. He kept that company going. And people don't realize that was not exactly super easy times. In the birth of the direct market and juggling returnable items and figuring out what does that mean, and new distribution channels and new creative teams and new creative demands. you
Yeah.
know um I mean, he was one of the people who got them the Hasbro license, you know to do GI Joe and to do the He-Man comics and to do like tons of stuff. I mean, it's just so it is very funny that it's like you said, I got the advice from him, and it's like, oh, well, really?
Yeah, no, like the for those that know, the irony in that is not lost on me. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Um, but no, like there's a balance, right? Like it's got to be ready when it's ready. But
Right.
like I said, as a publisher, this is a conversation for another day. There's a
Right.
reason deadlines exist, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the balance, right? You got
Mm.
a deadline is a good push, but it's not necessarily it's not the end all be all people think it is either. But
Right.
that
And
is
and it, but if you're not going to have it be the end all be all, you also have to have multiple pieces in play, and then that becomes difficult, right? So like, and it's kind of funny because if you look at comics in the early 2000s, deadlines were definitely malleable because they kept on having fill-in teams and fill-in stories constantly
well, yeah,
because the
that's
art
a
teams weren't ready, so but that's because they had a cachet of backup stories that they could utilize,
yeah,
you know
which is
so
yeah, like I said, another day, another time.
yep.
Like how
Yeah,
the
that's a whole.
industry has evolved.
Yeah.
Because I want to get the you plugging your book. If we don't, if
Yeah.
we keep talking forever otherwise.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, the industry is definitely in an long story short, publishing has decentralized. And maybe someday down the road, like maybe next year when I go to San Diego again, maybe I can get both you and your partner in crime in the same room and talk about how you guys have rolled with how diverse publishing has become. Because that in itself is a huge topic.
Yeah, that would be a fun conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be fun, right? And because again, you guys are using multiple streams to get to where you're getting to, and they're working for you, but at the same time, it's a balance and it's a challenge, right? So, but that's another story. Talk about Sancho. You're the man.
So the first issue is up on Kickstarter right now. It's a standard 24-page book. It's the story within the story is, I think, a 10-page story. And, Sancho essentially is an insane genie who thinks he knows everything and thinks he knows the best way to get stuff done. And for some reason or another, you'll find out why, as the story goes on, he's attached himself to this one family and these two kids, Kenneth and Yanni. And for some reason, he decides to guide their lives. But it doesn't, the question is, how much guidance can a guy who thinks he's a chipmunk provide? So not saying he can't provide good guidance. I'm just saying, it's a challenge.
Well, like like I said earlier, someone that pretends he might be Chippendale, the Rescue Rangers, minus the mustache, might have some issues, but that's neither here nor there.
Right. Right? And so Joe Martinez is doing all the line work. I actually met him at Comic-Con doing portfolio reviews that I do every year. He's worked with the band Ninja Sex Party. So he's done a comic book with Ninja Sex Party that apparently sold out, and now they're in the process of doing a second print run for it. So it's been super successful for the band. So that's super cool. And then Raymond Lee is doing the art. He's one of the guys from a coloring studio in the Philippines. And he's worked with Will Spartacio and Brian Haberlin, and he's done, colors on Stone and a bunch of Image books and a bunch of Avalon Studio books, over the years. So again, I'm very fortunate that he was recommended to me, and he's exceptionally talented. The pages he's turning out are just unreal. So it's just blowing my mind. And again, I'm super happy with the art team, and again, I'm super happy I took the time to find the people, right? And I found the right people, and these are people who are sharing the same desire. And again, Raymond's been in the business for a long time. Joe's been in the business not as long, but he's been grinding away, doing stuff. And so it's a team of people who love this industry and love this art form. Again, the lettering portion is the last piece that I need to fill. I have a couple of leads. I've got a couple of portfolios I've been looking at and that kind of stuff. But again, it's one of those things that it's like, okay, I think I've pretty much narrowed it down to 2 or 3 people. I just need to reach out and find out what their schedules are like. Because again, that's the other thing is, when you're a small press publisher like myself, I got to work with everybody else's schedule, and that's not always easy.
No, it's not. So how long is the Kickstarter going to run for?
So the Kickstarter goes until December 27th.
Okay.
So we launched it on December 1st, did it for 26 days, which with the time frame of December 1st, since I didn't launch it at midnight, it actually goes till like 10 a.m. to 27th or something like that. I was talking to Pops on the Madness live stream recently, and he said, you're either incredibly stupid or incredibly brave to want a Kickstarter in December. And I said, yes, I am. And I didn't say which one I was.
Or there's a third possibility, which I'm going to just say here, incredibly opportunistic.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, sometimes you go do things when nobody expects you to.
Yeah.
That actually works in your favor. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, again, it's I didn't want to wait forever. I didn't want to rush it at the same time, right? So I was supposed to launch this after San Diego this year. That was one of the reasons why Alex, and you talked about the project was because I was supposed to launch it in August, and I literally, I only had Joe under contract as of August, and I was like, yeah, I don't even have the book done. I don't have the first issue script. I'm screwed in August, you know. So we did some rearranging with our schedule, and we did Nearer Dark Seas, which is Bill's next miniseries for Nira. So we did the first issue of that on Kickstarter, and then we decided to do this one. I'm literally doing the final fulfillment. Bill actually messaged me while we were talking. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you those last bit of commissions. I'm gonna put them in the mail on Monday." And I'm like, "That'd be great because that's like the last stuff I need to fulfill for that Kickstarter, and then I could literally not worry about that one anymore." You know. So yeah, I mean, it's nutty. I'm gonna throw this the link in the chat because why not?
I've already put it up.
Oh, you already got it. Cool. Yeah. You being all smart and professional and everything.
They gave me an award once upon a time, Tom. I'm either really good at what I'm doing, or I'm very, 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 very. I stand out. We'll just leave it at that. Well, I stand out.
You do. But yeah, so I mean that's the Kickstarter's going. We've got 3 different variant covers. So we have the first issue cover by Joe. We've got a Bill Mouse variant cover because I figured why not, right? Bill's part of the family. My friend Kevin McCoy, who's done a bunch of variant covers for Mountaineers West, a book called War Angels, which has been very successful. Kevin's also done covers for Zenoscope. Robin Hood, he did a couple, Zenoscope covers. And then because of the fact that the book is a little bit creepy, not quite, full on creepy, it's definitely, still general audience. I decided to use Joe's black and white cover, black and white artwork for one of the pieces. Just because of the fact it gave it like a slightly different tone, and this with black and white books and color books, right? Colorists can, again, like I said, they can enhance, they can change the feel, they can add warmth where there wasn't originally warmth, emanating.
Yep.
And again, I love Raymond's colors, but I was like, this is kind of cool,
It is. No, I'm looking at it right now. It looks like a very creepy, a creepy Pac-Man thing almost.
Yeah, that's Sancho's head. That's because again, he's a genie. Why not? And the funny thing is, actually, the genie element was suggested to me by my friend and other artist, Terry Huddleston. Terry Huddleston is a very, very brilliant artist, and he's doing some amazing things. But he was pretty much because he saw my mascot, he saw the pictures of Sancho, the pieces I've had people do, and he's just like, "What's his story? He looks like he should just be like a Mr. Mxyzptlk, from Superman." And I was like, I never thought of him that way. Like me and Alex always conceived him as pretty much just a crazy guy, who was gonna have kind of a snarky, Tales from the Crypt style mindset, more like Crypt Keeper. And when Terry suggested that, I was like, that opens up all these different personality traits, that would explain certain things and allow him to do more. Yeah. So I was like, fuck, that's a good idea.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, it's one of those things where sometimes, again, good ideas from great people, but also the more you know, the more you can actually do with the character too. So it'd be interesting to see what you do for issues 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
So you realize now, in my head, I have a Tales from the Crypt Keeper sounding like a chipmunk. I'm not sure that's not entirely what you were going for there. But I mean,
you know what? I can't say I'm upset with that resonating in your head right now. I can't say that in there rent free is not making me giggle.
That's right, folks. There's a Crypt Keeper. actually, and I'm saying this, it's Theodore of the Chickmunks, because Theodore
That's
would
right.
be the one that would be the most terrifying of the three.
That's true. The one you wouldn't suspect.
That's right.
He's the most terrifying. He's cute and cuddly, and then you go, what's behind those eyes? Why are you always giggling in the corner?
And it's like, why are you so oh my God, they're empty. That's neither here nor there. All right, folks, definitely check out his Kickstarter right now. I should say Committed Comics' Kickstarter. There's some cool variant covers going on for the next 17 days. As of this listening, reading, whatever watching, whatever you're doing with this podcast, it'll be there and up. And I'll make sure I'll talk to the boss of this so that the audio preview will touch earlier than this, because I can do that. I mean, my boss is a bit of a dick. I mean, you talk to him for 80 minutes or so. So, I mean, there you go. But it'll be up and available throughout the month of December. Definitely check it out. It sounds like a very fun book. And like I said, just think Tales of the Crypt Keeper with an evil chipmunk voice, and you're there. And besides that, Tom, thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on. I always love just talking shop, talking stuff.
Yep. All right, let's do this right then. So this is Tom. Check it out. Currently, folks, also during this month, I am teaching a podcast course on how to do a show like this. I've done 1,000 shows of this series, but I've also produced shows for clients and companies. I can give you all the details on how to do those things and do those things very well. I'm going to put the link up there for that right this minute. It's on my webpage, which I'm probably going to be updating because it looks very 2015, and I'm not sure that I should have a 2015, looking website in 2024-ish. But it's up right now. You can definitely go check out the course there if you guys want to do that. So, and now we'll do it for this episode of Just Joshing. I will have a bunch of episodes next week. So definitely check them out. For everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you next time.